I think luck, I don't think it's played a huge part.
Okay.
I think if you are persistent, if you I think you create your own luck. I think you
Mhm.
create an environment where you're useful to people. And I think that's the thing, going back to this idea of creating a business, is how can we serve our collaborators, a film director. How can I serve that person when I go and work with this film director? Is it all about me? No, it's about the film. It's probably about a bit about the director.
Yeah.
Hopefully the good directors I work with, it's about the film still, but it, there are egos involved, but sometimes. But a caveat, directors watching this, you're all fine. But no, it's the luck part of it is, I think, just the general chance of life. It's you know you see an old friend in the street. Is it luck or is it coincidence? Is it just atoms flying everywhere? It's just life happening, and it's going to happen whether you're there or not. But if you happen to be there and you've got all the skill set ready and you've got a good mental attitude of approaching things in an exciting and enthusiastic way, then actually you're gonna then you will be the person that gets the job or gets the opportunity, because there will be a magnetism towards you. So I think the notion of luck, it's more a notion of coincidence and chance.
Mhm.
But I think the universe has a bit of an energy field vibe about it. I think if you create the right energy vibe, then the laws of attraction will be that you
Okay.
create your own luck without getting too spiritual about it. So that some sacrifices or compromises, sacrifice and compromise, really.
Mhm.
I think there were times early on where I don't think one can live with regret, but there are certain things where I didn't go to some friends' weddings because I had a gig,
Okay.
really basic one. And I think that may, for some friends, some really close friends, it's important to put those relationships first. And maybe I would have done it differently with the wiseness that I might have more than I used to have now.
Sure. Okay.
That says things like that. There's relationships, and also those friends. I mean, even if they're not in music, you just don't know. Connections are so important. You just don't know this friend that you played at their wedding. Maybe, sorry, you went to their wedding. Maybe you play for them. Maybe you play some music for their ceremony, or maybe you just go as a guest and you be their friend. You support them. You don't know when that person might suddenly be the head of a production company, or that person might be working for a financial institution that's looking for a new Sonic logo or something like that. You just, and not that you should use your friends for that, but it is about connection. And it is about thinking a bit more long-termism when it comes to relationships and putting time. Equally, it's also about prioritizing the relationships that serve you,
Mhm.
both from a friendship point of view, but also in a career point of view. There is, stop wasting time with people that are bringing you down. Focus on the people that get you. Focus on the relationships that are useful. Don't feel too bad. You don't need to be rude or impolite or anything, but don't feel bad because you're not serving everybody. Serve the people, and so that's one thing is that I guess I would have done differently. But then I did, do a lot of gigs and I met a lot of musicians. So sometimes it's the right thing to do. Sometimes you just, the key thing is not to worry too much about it. Just try and make your own way and do what you feel is right in the moment. I had to compromise on income for a long time. I barely scraped by, was always facing cash flow problems, if not just, I remember getting into a bit of debt on a few credit cards, thinking I was going to have some work, and then I didn't. And then,
Okay.
spending a year just kind of slowly paying those off and just going, okay, I'm not going to do that again. And it's, in the end, if you can try and detach yourself away from financial worries as being too detrimental to yourself.
Yeah.
If you have got a good support network, then you are one of the lucky ones.
Mm-hmm.
My family weren't particularly wealthy, but I always knew that if push came to shove, I'd be okay somehow. And I think that the terrible thing in this life is when people don't have that.
Yeah.
And I can see how there'd be a lot of anxiety of taking on a career that isn't necessarily going to give you the income,
guaranteed income. Yeah, sure.
Income everywhere. But then I would say there's cleverer ways of approaching that career. I didn't want to compromise, but I have went through some financial difficulties. I took on various teaching roles, peripatetic teaching, and working for music services, workshopping capacity, and coming in and things like that. And I think the main thing is just be flexible. Is in those situations, if you need to take on some work, get yourself in a position where you don't need to do that work anymore and do something else. It's trying to not have anxiety and trying to just relax and let go of some of those things. Other things that I think for a long time, till I met my lovely wife, I kind of compromised on my relationships, my romantic relationships. I had this weird notion of, but do I love you as much as I love music?
Okay.
And of course they're just two completely different things and not related. But because I was so driven with music, I used to find that I'd be in a relationship and then it would always get to a stage where I'd be going, I just want to be in the studio. I don't yeah, let's go, but can I go back to the studio? I just want to go and play in a band or something. So I think the wiser you can become, the more work you can do in your emotional and your own kind of on the self, to be strong enough to differentiate, to understand yourself and what you need versus what you want, and making those quite grown-up decisions. I mean, we all know grown-ups who still can't make those decisions, so we're all working it out. But actually I think I was quite bipolar about music or relationships a lot of the time, and I think it did serve me moving forwards. So, but at some point you've got to say, well, okay, I've got to a place where I can look back and I've done enough stuff that I can feel that I'm content. I feel content. I do remember a time when in my, I think, early 20s, and I was doing this, running the studio, and a friend of mine said to me, just because I said, I really want to be a composer. Like thinking of it in the future. And my friend, he was a film producer, and he said, do you write music? I said, yeah, I do. How long have you been writing? Since I was 8. Well, you are a composer. Now just start saying it. Just start saying, I am this, and believe in it. And then if you believe in it, then there's more chance other people will believe in it. It doesn't mean that you need to be arrogant or I know everything.
Yep.
But it does mean that you have got faith in yourself, and I think that's important. Being honest with yourself as well is really key. And being curious it's something that I plan on never losing. You know, it's why I am probably the silliest dad in the playground. Or you know, I don't care. I think being childlike is the best thing ever. And I want to get a t-shirt that says that. I think if you are curious like a child, and you can bring that to everything you do, and you can find a way of not losing that, not letting financial worries stop that curiosity, not letting naysayers say, oh, you can't do that, or you won't be secure. In their opinion, in their experience, maybe, but in your experience, just remember, this is super spiritual, but just remember, every day that you wake up is a new day that no one has experienced before yet. That day could be anything you want it to be. And I think being curious and inventing yourself for that day, for that moment, is really, it's a really powerful tool. It's a funny one now, because I have definitely got quite a lot of stuff on my show reel. Quite a lot of, most of it I would say I was paid for as well now. So I think it's a transitional thing. I think if you focus your energy well, you can, I think you don't need to do loads and loads and loads and loads.
Okay.
Because that's as much about, at some point you say, okay, well, I've done that. I did that short film for you for free because I wanted to get, but now I'm going to require a fee. I don't need a lot, but I'm going to require a fee. And then you develop that, it's not expectation, but you develop that agreement with a director or a producer or a theatre company or something. You say, well, look, you know, we were there. I've just finished negotiating. I haven't actually officially announced it yet, but I will do so here.
Hooray.
Any trumpets? And I've just got another Foot Soldier film, and they didn't have the budget for me, and so I just had to say, well, this is the minimum I can do it for.
Okay.
Let's see. And we found a compromise in the way where actually I compromised a little bit on that fee, but actually still got a fee that I'm really happy with. But I also retained all my publishing, which in a world where content and rights, production companies want to take your rights, they want to be your publisher. They shouldn't be your publisher unless they're going to provide secondary usage to your.
Of course, yeah. Project.
So a lot of the time, even now, it's a negotiation, an active negotiation all the time. If we just did a show called Deep Fake Neighbor Wars, which is on ITVX, and that was done through, I think it was Tiger Aspect.
Okay. Anyway,
they, as the production company, keep 50% of our rights. I worked with another composer on it, so they're keeping 50% of the rights, and the other composer and I are splitting the rights 50-50. So we're walking away with 25% each of those production companies. So there's a lot of this stuff that you go, oh. But then you go, well, they're going to sell that program around the world. They have the contacts to do that. They're going to distribute it, and actually, the more that music, so you then start thinking it's that age-old 25% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And so it's just a negotiation.
Sure.
Because the film that I'm doing now, they're just trying to get it made. They've run out of money. Classic budgeting issues. They were quite happy to forgo the rights, but in the end, it might mean that I earn well and above what I originally asked for.
Yeah.
If it does well at the cinemas. So it's all to play for, and I guess it's just being open and not getting fixed on one idea. Well, this is how I do business. It's saying, okay, well, this is what I think I'm worth, but here's some things that we can negotiate on, and everyone feels somehow like they get a good deal in the end. Then that's a good place to be, I think.
Tremendous. Ross, it's been a real pleasure to spend the time with you. Great. Thank you so much for sharing all that information about everything that you do and how you got there. I know that many of the students will find it really helpful and really interesting to hear how you've particularly fashioned your own career. I hope we'll see you back in Suffolk sometime soon. You must come and say hi if you're back up this way.
Hi, Joe. That's what I want to come and see.
Oh yeah, right. Okay. I'll keep in touch with you about Sijo. Yeah. For any of our viewers who don't know what Sijo is, it's the Suffolk Youth Jazz Orchestra. So which Ross was in, and has been a hiatus for quite a few years, and we've just relaunched this year.
Fantastic news.
So Ross, thanks again. Really great to see you. Best wishes to you, and I hope we'll see you again in the future.
Thanks so much, Ben. Cheers.
Take care.
Cheers. The shortcut is there is no shortcut.
Okay.
Unless your uncle owns Sony,
Mhm.
then there might be a shortcut. But I think with the music business, so the music business, we talk about the music business as a kind of like there's some overlords running it. The music business is like, it's a free market. It's like any business. It's all about how can this entity help this entity to create this, and then they make money, or they make, and I think if something that would have helped me sooner is remembering that fact, that if you can find ways of serving your collaborators, being of use, then you will become indispensable. You will become so valuable. So work out how you can be of use in any situation, whether that's a violinist in an orchestra. Are you turning up on time? Have you done your prep? Have you done your practice? Are you nailing it? Great. Then you are going to become a dependable. And then, the conductor you may be 18 years old in the Suffolk Youth Orchestra, for example, and the conductor may get a little amateur MD or an MDing gig for some pantomime and say, oh, we need a violinist and this person. And suddenly you've got a job. And that's how music works. You don't really need qualifications in music. Your qualifications are who you are. And I mean, qualifications help, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, sure.
Qualifications. I'm just saying that's not why people choose people for roles. Oh, they've got a master's in being really uptight about, Bach. No, it's more importantly, can you communicate well? Can you get people enthused? Can you be part of a team, or can you lead, or can you do a combination of both? Can you take on different roles? I think people can get fixed on being one thing, and I had that for a long time. In fact, up until very recently, I was so fixed on I'm going to be a film composer, and it made me, I would say, it created a degree of unhappiness inside me, because when I wasn't being a film composer and I was doing something else, I was failing. And actually, the great thing about life is the failing bit.
Yeah.
When you're trying to do stuff and you can't do it, and then you can do it, actually, that's the best feeling. We've all practiced a piece, and then finally be able to play it is going, oh, how much work did we put in, but we got there.
Yeah.
And I play this, and I feel really good about it. So it's I think the music business is so broad. There's so many aspects to it. To be a film composer specifically, there are, even within that, there are so many different routes. You could I know film composers who didn't even go to music college, who they were at art school and they liked sound art, and then they had some music background and they got into it that way. I know composers who have gone and assisted, Hans Zimmer and various other great composers over the years, and they have been assistants, and then they eventually, there's a kind of hierarchy where they then get given a composing role and stuff. I was tempted with that, but again,
I mean, wasn't Harry Gregson Williams, wasn't he Hans Zimmer underling, and then it's grown into.
Yeah, and then there's so my wife sings for she's a session singer for a group called London Voices, and they sing on pretty much all the big film soundtracks recorded.
Is that Ben Parry?
That's Ben Parry. You must know.
So Ben was our first episode. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So Abby sings with Ben, and so so it's I think the last job they did was the composer who was the assistant to Harry Gregson Williams, who was the assistant to kind of seeing these generations of composers. Yeah, right. That's a pretty sturdy route of getting into it, but obviously it's very competitive, because you've got to somehow get in with that composer and be amazing, but also serve that person. So that's as much as about opportunity. And again, maybe now I know that, maybe if I did it again, I would try that.
Yeah.
I just didn't have any knowledge of that kind of world.
Of course.
And I've come into it my own way, you know, with influences from, you know, the education I had at Goldsmiths and high school and things like that, but, you know, also making it up as I go along, and blagging it and not feeling too bad about it, and just going, well, using my skills to do the next bit. And
yeah, on we go.
We're all honest, we all do that.
Sure.
That's how we
Absolutely right.
move around. So yeah, I don't get too caught up on the term music industry, I would say, because that can be a bit of a writer's block with your career.
Sure.